So I guess I always had this mind that I wanted to be a multimillionaire. I wanted to like save the world somehow. And I knew I couldn't do it on just being having a job.
Job.
So for me it was like, okay, I'm gonna be an actor. And then it was, okay, I'm gonna be an inventor. I used to write down so many invention ideas in a book. That was my ingenuity coming in. And so then I thought, okay, I'll invent something. It's gonna take off, and that's how I'm gonna make my millions. I just knew that I needed to make millions.
Alexiou, man. Alexiou Gibson. Where do we start, man? Where does it start for you, actually? Where does it start? Was it start for you in Palm Beach? Was it start for you in Bahamas? Like, where does it? Well, of course, in the Bahamas, it all started. Like, start up. Let's start talking about your growing up in the Bahamas. What does that look like? How many brothers and sisters? Like, what does that look like?
Growing up in the Bahamas is paradise, man. It's absolutely beautiful, breathtaking waters, food, culture. So growing up in the Bahamas was very homey, very, everybody knows everybody. So growing up on islands is definitely a lot different than growing up here. Such a bigger world here.
Brothers and sisters, like how was the household?
Household was great, man. I grew up with my grandmother, who's sweet as pie, tons of siblings and tons of cousins, all on the island.
Tons, like when you say tons, how many brothers and sisters? As a Bahamian, I know what time it is.
Yeah, we got about 10, 10, yeah, so.
The way you made it sound so small, we have about 10.
That's small compared to Caribbean men.
Yeah, you're right. So you're absolutely correct. Parents, they weren't in a house or they just went, like what was the relationship with your parents growing up with your grandmother? Yeah. How's your relationship with your parents?
Oh, my relationship was beautiful with both parents, and their relationship with each other is fantastic as well.
All in the same house? Or they live, island houses are so different.
My family moved around a lot because my mom was always in aviation, and then my father was also in aviation as well. So, they came and flew around a lot, which is why, I had something more stable with my grandmother growing up,
What did they do in the aviation, your mother and your father? Like what?
My dad is an engineer, aerospace engineer, and my mom, she was just always managing different airlines, different airports, flying here and there, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your father is a aero engineer?
Yes.
I don't want to pronounce it right. So when did you come up to the U.S.? Like when?
I came to the U.S. probably when I was 10 or 11. 10? Yeah.
So did your grandmother move up here or did you just move up here with other family?
No. At that point, my mom was more stable. So at that point, I just moved with my mother.
She was already up here?
Yeah, she was already
in Palm Beach or?
Fort Lauderdale. Which my mom was born in America, so that was an easy transition.
Easy transition for you and her. Yeah. So did you move up to Fort Lauderdale first, and you moved back up? Yeah. You moved up here.
Yeah, I was in Fort Lauderdale first, and then we moved to Palm Beach later.
Did you do like high school, middle school, all that in Fort Lauderdale, or this way?
High school and middle school, and then I moved to Palm Beach. I was here for a short time for college, and then then I started traveling as well.
So you started. You went to Palm Beach State when living in Palm Beach.
Yeah, I started at Palm Beach State and then went to University of Florida.
How was the trend? Like, while you're in school, what's that process like of being the Bahamian kid? It's a little different for a lot of them because a lot of more West Indian kids in that community.
Yeah, lots actually. There were a lot of Jamaicans, Haitians, Bahamians, Trinidadians. It almost felt like a island melting pot.
You felt home when you were living down there.
A lot of Hispanics too, Cubans. Is like, I kind of found my groups because they all had similar mannerisms, similar cultures, music, stuff like that. So we had a lot of things in common. So it made it easy to make those friends.
100%. So when you got up here, straight to Palm Beach State College, what'd you study? What were you thinking about doing? Did you already know what you wanted to do?
Oh yeah, I was in biomedical engineering.
So was it to do what?
Biomedical engineering was what that is when you go into a hospital and you see all the machinery that's keeping people alive, the things that doctors use to operate, the CAT scans, the MRI machines, all of those are put together by medical engineers, that had to build the machine, build the circuit boards, program it, stuff like that. So in a sense, is to be in a realm to make those machines better, invent something new, and stuff like that.
Was it more, did you get that engineering back from your parents, from your dad?
Well, yeah, I'm my dad's like twin, so
So it's your inspiration, your dad.
well, my dad's always been really bright. All my siblings too, really good at math and science and stuff like that. So I know like the apple doesn't fall far from the
From the
tree.
tree.
Yeah.
So so then you, after leaving, well, you left Palm Beach State and went where?
University of Florida for a very short time, but then I got a call from NASA to help them build a rover.
I was just not gonna act like that was easy. You just got a call from NASA. What is that like?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, a year prior, I was a part of a procurement team that put together a prototype rover, and that was like a 3-day thing in Huntsville, Alabama, and I performed really well, and they remembered me. And a year later, they called and asked if I wanted to come to the headquarters in DC and do some more work for them, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So that's what I did. They kind of pulled me out of school, and the rest is history.
So you got right into it.
Yeah, I got right into it. I went to DC. I was there for about 6 months. And at the end of my assignment, my chief of technology, my mentor, she just told me, she said, hey, I think you're too bright to work here. You should start your own and chase your dreams. And she just said, hey, if you want to come back and work here full time, the doors are wide open. But, I challenge you to go out. And at the time, I had already had a freelance videography business. I was getting paid from jobs that I wasn't physically on because I was in DC. And I was reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad at the time, which was, explaining the difference between profits and wages. And here I was, getting profits in the form of checks for a job that was, in Florida while I was in DC. And it just really put things into perspective of how much more powerful entrepreneurship can be, how much freeing it can be.
100%.
Because while I'm out with my friends, my guys are shooting footage and it's like still getting contracts, still getting paid, even though I'm not physically there. And I think that was really the first time I experienced that, because even though I was in entrepreneurship, I had always been a part of working it. It was kind of like you work within your business versus like stepping away completely and it's still moving. So that was the first time I felt that in real life.
Felt the freedom.
Felt that freedom, and it was more money too. You're making more money than a desk job or wages. And so by the time I finished my internship, and my mentor told me that, it was like she's telling me this, and I just experienced it. I just read about it. To me, it was like a full circle confirmation.
So you're ready. So was film production where you wanted? That's the direction you wanted to go when you first got into your entrepreneurial hustle, or
that was always a hobby of mine. I used to be a gamer when I was in high school, and I had built a community around my name in the fighting community. So people used to actually
video game fighting. Okay, I want to be clear. I know if you were like Kimbo Slice out here. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we had those moments too, but not professional. But yeah, video game fighting games. We would travel for tournaments. Some of us were signed to like ESPN and stuff like that. And because of like how I handled my character, there was a community that would wait for me to drop videos and tutorials and combo videos. So I had to edit those myself, which was a lot of work. If you ever watch a combo video for any fighting game, it's like fast paced. It's like, so I developed like a hobby and a love for editing. I still to this day love editing, So when I was in college, I got...
Sorry, move your mic. I want to make sure the audio's picking you up correctly.
Yeah, when I got to college, I got an opportunity to make videos for the school. And naturally, I wanted to get better since I was going to be for something more important. So for my electives for engineering, instead of taking like regular electives, I took film courses instead. So I took lighting grip, advanced editing, blue and green screen compositing, sound. And that's when I started my film business shortly after.
But so when did the love for engineering, you were inspired by your father, then you decided to go into film. Mm-hmm. In college, you went into film. Was that just for the love and the passion of the arts? And then when did the engineering happen? After, like, what made you go into engineering? That process was...
Well, I was always in school for engineering. I just took film classes on the side.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I just took them on the side because I was making videos for the college, and then I
because you need to earn extra money while you're...
Well, I was a part of student government, so it wasn't like a paid thing,
Hmm.
but I was a student leader, and they wanted me to be their social media manager. And I had ideas of making comedy sketches and
Okay.
skits and stuff to keep the college students interested during the SGA meetings and stuff like that. It was something I proposed to them, and they were like, "Hey, we like this." It's like, okay, get me into film classes because normally you can't get into film classes unless you are a film student. But because I was in student government, one call to the
The
dean,
relationship, the
yeah,
relationship was there.
they
The
got me
power
in.
of relationship.
Yeah, power of relationships.
So
So
so after that, you went. You had an internship to, or you transferred from Palm Beach Garden. I mean, sorry, Palm Beach State College.
yes,
You went to UF.
correct,
UF. You then got an internship with NASA
correct.
from a program you did
Prior with NASA, yeah,
prior with NASA, and
yeah.
that's where the relationship happened for you to get that next opportunity after that.
Yeah, so that's how I got the Washington D.C. opportunity. They had 10,000 students apply to help them build this rover, and they only chose 40. I was one of the 40, and then out of the 40, they handpicked 4 people to lead the other 36 people, and I was one of those that they chose. And we had to pitch and present our math findings, our numbers, our algorithms to a board of NASA PhD scientists, and my my pitch got the best.
How was that for you? How was the intimidation? How was the, like what gave you the confidence to keep going like in that direction? Like what was it for you that made you stand out from others?
I think for me it was just my way with people. People were drawn to me. It was
Charisma.
Yeah, it was really easy for me to get a team together. They trusted me. Nobody, if you're in the engineering world, most people are like bookworms and mathematicians, but they don't want to get in front of a room. It's the type of personalities that kind of blend into the background and they're happy there. So to have like a kind of extroverted engineer or a science major
That
is
stands
kind of
out.
rare.
Where'd you get that from? Where did you build? How did you build that personality?
Well, I used to do show plays when I was a little boy in the Bahamas. My aunt, she's like the Medea on the islands.
Right, right.
She's a comedian, does a lot of stage plays, and I remember from a little boy, I'll be feeding her lines from behind the curtain, and then eventually I was in front of the curtain. So I think naturally those things just made it a little easier to do public speaking. I mean, it's still nerve wracking, especially when they tell you you're presenting to like NASA scientists that knows these
Pretty
numbers like the
intimidating.
back of their hands, and you're going to convince them that your findings is better. So it was definitely intimidating and nerve wracking. But for me, it's like I step into a fight or flight mode as soon as I hop on the stage. So like you get those nerves like jitters right before you step on, but once you step on and you know that people are dependent on you, it's like, man, you just have to go. You have to
Wow, that's
put it all
powerful.
behind.
So
Yeah.
did you think your upbringing prepared you for that Nassau experience, or getting in front of the stage from your aunt? You think all that played a
Yeah.
role?
I think everything I went through in life was a part of the puzzle. You could never like really dissect it all, but I think everything led to who I am and like what I've been able to do so far.
Were you able to get that clarity in that process? Because I started getting that clarity from like 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
Like I already knew who I am and where I'm going, what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
how I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like I really felt like 11 or 12 years, I knew I was different than most.
Yeah.
I knew my hunger was different. So did you get some of that feeling?
I would say since I was like 3, strangers would come up.
I said 3.
Yeah, since I was like 3, strangers would come up to my grandmother, my mom, and just say like, "Hey, this kid's gonna be somewhere
Out
special."
of 10
one day."
kids and siblings and cousins all around.
Yeah, yeah.
You were that guy that they said that to.
Since I was an infant, my grandmother would tell me people would stop her all the time, like, "Oh, he's gonna be somebody special." For
My mother
me,
told
I
me
just
that.
took apart all my toys, trying to figure out how they worked, and then try to put them back together. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, and so. For me, my first, like, I guess, entrepreneurial thing ever was probably when I was 6. I had a great grandmother at the time that had one of those vendor shops. You come to the Bahamas, you want to buy souvenirs.
They hustle.
So yeah. So she was always an entrepreneur. We always knew her to always have money and work for herself our whole life. And my grandmother had these like a pine tree in her yard. They used to drop these pine cones. And one day I took some gold spray paint that was left in the cupboard and I spray painted them all. and my grandmother used it as like decorations on the table. And I remember my great grandmother coming by and seeing that. And she's like, "Where'd you get these? These are really nice." It's like, "Oh, Alexiou took them from the yard and spray painted them." And she was like, "Give me like 10. I'm going to put it in my shop." you know? So I
For
gave
a
her,
hustle started.
yeah, so I gave her some cones. And maybe 4 days later, I went by her house to visit. And she gave me $40. She was like, "All your cones sold."
How did that $40 feel? It
At the
felt a little
time,
different,
when
huh?
you're getting like $1.50 a day for lunch,
Right.
you're balling with
Oh,
$40.
you went back to school rich.
Yeah, definitely.
So the family inspiration, was it only your great grandmother as an entrepreneur, or was there any other family members that was entrepreneurs in the family?
Well, yeah, my grandfather, he started his business when he was 14, and has became a multimillionaire in his 20s. By the time, right now, he owns the largest insurance firm in the Bahamas.
Strong.
And I mean, my grandfather's in his 80s now, so he's been successful most of his life. So
Powerful.
although we lived on different islands and I didn't have the direct influence, I always knew of his power and what he was able to achieve. So it was kind of like always having like another idol in the family to look up to.
So it seems like a lot of men both. I can't just your mom and your father, but you were inspired by the men in your family. How did that role played in your life? The father as the smart engineer, that was inspiration for you.
Yes.
Your grandfather, an entrepreneur,
Yes.
a leader in the community.
Yes.
Those guys, the men in your family, what did that inspiration do for you?
I think just knowing that it was possible did a lot for me. Everybody else is like doing a 9 to 5 type thing. And since I was a little kid, I always had this vision of like saving all the homeless people. I remember the first time I saw like a homeless person, it really stuck with me. And I remember asking like, why are they like that? And, there's never a clear answer to why they were like that. And it's like, I'm going to build a mansion with 100 rooms. Me thinking there's only 100 homeless people, right?
Right, only 100.
Yeah,
you're going to save all of them too.
Save them all in one mansion with 100 rooms. And I thought I would be a famous actor, and that's how I was going to make the money to do it. So I guess I always had this mind that I wanted to be a multimillionaire. I wanted to like save the world somehow. And I knew I couldn't do it on just having a job. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm gonna be an actor. And then it was, okay, I'm gonna be an inventor. I used to write down so many invention ideas in a book. That was my ingenuity coming in. And so then I thought, okay, I'll invent something. It's gonna take off, and that's how I'm gonna make my millions. I just knew that I needed to make millions.
And your main reason to make millions was to take care of people.
Yeah, save the
world. It was
world.
never for self. It was take care. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
It's a true. It's an authentic. It's real.
My mother reminds me of that all the time now that I actually am a multimillionaire, and she's like, "Wow, you always said this from a little boy."
Wow. Wow, that's powerful. Yeah. So speaking of now, you're a multimillionaire. How the heck did you become a multimillionaire? But I want to go back from. I want to know the process of it, this idea, and then the action.
Well, it's funny. It really ties back right into that seed as a little boy. I was making Seamoss in my kitchen, which is something that's very common in the Caribbean. It builds immune system. It helps with diabetes, weight loss. It has almost everything the human body needs to survive and to help itself heal. So it's just something on the island. You're sick, your grandmother make you some bush tea or mix some concoction that's nasty, but it's going to make you feel better. So when COVID broke out, my grandmother was staying with me. And at the time she was 79, and she was taking medication for like different comorbidities, which, if you watch the news, it's like, hey, if you're older and you're taking medication for certain things, COVID could be really deadly. So hearing that, I'm like, I had my grandmother on a sick vitamin regimen. And then I'll put Seamoss in her coffee every morning. And, I would film her on my Instagram story, like drinking it, enjoying it, and every morning making her coffee. And then I had friends who were nurses that were working with COVID people that were terrified because they didn't know if they were going to get it. They had to be around them all day. And they're like, hey, how do we get some of that? I heard that it's really good. Can I get some? And I was like, yeah, send me your address. Because at the time, nobody wanted to like see anybody face to face. This is like when the pandemic first broke out and everyone
the fear was there.
Yeah, no one even wanted to go outside and breathe the air back then.
Right.
So I literally was taking the money in my bank account and spending my own money to ship it directly to them for free. And we had a hashtag that was going around that was like Seamoss for nurses. And if you could prove you were a nurse, we sent it to you for free.
Wait, so you're just doing this out of your house?
Yeah.
Vision was to help your grandmother.
Yeah.
Then a couple friends saw the Seamoss, how I guess it was working for your grandmother, the happiness, all the things they saw.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, send me some also.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it wasn't a business transaction. It was just you helping again.
Right. It was just people asking me for some of this medicine.
Send me some Seamoss also while you're at it, but keep going.
Yeah. Right. And that's what we did. We sent it around, and then we started getting so many orders that I was literally like going broke. I was getting like 40 orders a week. And it's like, man, 40 times $8 postage plus material. It was starting to add up. And then there was people that weren't nurses that really wanted it too. So like then we moved.
How did they find you? From the hashtag, you believe?
Well, that and just people word of mouth, like when I sent people Seamoss, they would then make a video and then tag me in it. Like, wow, thank you so much for this. This is powerful, and then they'll ask that person, like, who'd you get it from? Or they'll click my tag and say, hey, I saw that so-and-so got Seamoss from you. Like, I'll pay you, people some nurses didn't even want it for free. They were like, hey, I'm going to pay you so the next nurse can get it for free, And like,
so now it became a whole community.
Yeah.
Organically, just you helping people.
Right. That's
them helping people. So this all started off with you just serving.
Just serving, correct. And once we started getting a ton of orders, because I had such a manual process. People would DM me, or they would text me, or they'd send me a message on Facebook, or a message here, or a message there, and it was like all over the place. And I'm like, man, why am I doing this? Let me just create an omni channel and create like a marketplace, like Etsy or Amazon or something like that, where people can go put in their own information, their own shipping. And then it'll be so much easier to just like print a label and send it. Because before I was like writing down everything in a notebook, and it was like prehistoric.
Right.
So that's when things changed. I put it on the marketplace, and I started getting all those orders in. People were sharing it like crazy. I want
to, before you hit there, did you start selling it for profit, or just started selling it just to even cover your costs at first?
Yeah, at first. So the model we moved to after we started getting too many orders, especially from people who weren't in healthcare, but was like, hey, I just really want it. It was like nurses still got it for free, but everybody else had to pay. And that's how we kind of like broke even, or at least were able to keep the wheels turning so we could keep serving people.
Powerful.
Yeah. And then once we put it on a marketplace, those same people would keep ordering, and then they would leave reviews. And that's when things changed, because the way algorithms work on marketplaces like Amazon and other websites like it, they see how many orders are coming in what time frame, and then they also compare it to the reviews. So it's a formula that kind of uses both sales and reviews. So with us getting 5-star reviews and so many orders in a small time, when people went on Etsy, there was 5,000 sellers selling Seamoss, but we were on the front page because of the algorithms. So now that's when things got crazy. It was like, now I'm not just shipping to Florida. It's Pennsylvania and Texas and Cali.
Took off.
I actually posted a picture yesterday of like where we started, and it was like my mother's dining table. I had like maybe 20 packages. I had them all spread out like it was a huge order, compared to what we're doing now. It's like, man, that was small. But back then I was like, wow, I have 23 orders, and they're all going to like different states,
That had to be a shock. And all organically.
All organically. That's the
so
thing.
There wasn't even a vision to make this a business.
It wasn't. It's funny. The name of my company is The Transformation Factory, and I always had aspirations of creating a documentary, which we're still filming right now, showing the beginning of my weight loss journey to how I got to my.
Can you speak a little bit about your weight loss journey?
Yeah, my weight loss journey. I lost over 300 pounds in the last like maybe 8 years or so. And I knew I wanted to. We were filming it already. I had my production company film it, and I knew I had an intention to release it to the world so that they can become the best version of themselves as well. And I knew at some point I wanted to have some kind of an online presence where people can come and watch it, but they can also have like a community that they can talk to each other, and also have like holistic things that they can get. And I knew I wanted Seamoss to be a part of that line. However, I didn't plan on launching any products until the doc is done, just for it to complete the whole website. So I always joke around and say I kind of got bullied into this business
Right,
because
right.
even though it's like people wouldn't stop leaving me alone about it, and for good reason. People have COVID. I had COVID patients reaching out to me like, I feel terrible. Can I please get it? And it wasn't until those same people got it that had COVID and got my product that was like my symptoms went away in like a day. And it was like, man, this stuff is powerful. And they start telling everybody, and it was like a domino effect. And then once we had the search engine optimization where people search and we're on the front page, that's when it opened up really big to like people outside of my network.
So were you using the Seamoss for your weight loss trends? You know,
Well, it was definitely one
a
of
part
the
of your
part of my regime. You put it in your smoothie. After a gym. For men in particular, CMOS boosts our libido, our sperm count, our testosterone, everything that we need to function, have clear mental thinking, retain muscle, recover from broken muscles when you go in the
so
gym.
like the ultimate
It is the ultimate.
mess.
It is the ultimate medicine. Yeah. So
Wow.
I always I would use it as a face mask, a beard mask. I'd put it in my smoothies, my tea, my coffee. It was just one of those things. You could even cook with it. Put it in your soups. Put it in your rice and the
And once they
water.
get hot, it doesn't kill anything.
No, no, it doesn't. Actually, our ancestors used to boil it because they didn't have Vitamix blenders,
Right, right,
back in
right.
the 1800s and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's been around for over 300 years, on paper at least. It could
Right.
predate that too. But, it's a very dense seaweed. And to get it into a gel form, today, people use very powerful blenders to whip it into a gel, but our ancestors didn't have that, so they would boil it. And when you boil sea moss, it becomes very clear and like jello like,
Mhm.
very liquidy. At that point, you put it in the refrigerator and it gels, So, uh, that's the process.
So let's go into the business side. So you literally were helping, saving lives, doing all these things just organically.
Yeah, yeah.
When did you know was a business?
I knew it was a business when we started shipping out like over 100 orders,
How
and
soon did that happen?
that happened within maybe 6 weeks of launch. Within 6 weeks, we were the best selling CMOS brand on the website. Within 6 weeks, we were the best sellers.
So you went from what? Let's talk about money now. You went from what to what in 6 weeks?
I just remember calling my mom because my mom had an eviction notice on her house at the time while I was giving away this stuff for free.
Wow.
Money. Yeah, and so she had an eviction notice on her door.
Of course. Why not?
Yeah.
Part of the process.
Yeah. Plus, it's COVID. Everyone was losing their businesses, their jobs because everybody's inside now. So we were affected by that too. So here we are. We have this massive rent, and my mom's literally out every day with a mask on, looking for a cheaper place for us to move into. And I just remember calling her. I think it was like maybe the 15th day of the month, and I was looking at my back office in the store. I'm like, man, we did 4K in the first 15 days. I'm like, if we keep up this momentum, we'll have close to 10,000 by the end of the month. And I remember calling her. I was like, yo, Ma, come home. Like, stop looking for stuff. We're gonna be
we're
good.
gonna be all right.
We're gonna be good. I just felt it in my spirit. Like it wasn't gonna be like a fling.
Right,
I was
right.
like, we're gonna be good. And she's like, you sure? It's like, yeah, we're gonna be good. And like, not only gonna be good, I don't even need you to help me. I got it. I'm gonna take care of it.
So who's producing all this with you now? Just you still, or
No, we have a team of 45 now.
before then? I'm talking about that.
Back
that
then?
transition. Like, was it just you writing it out?
In the beginning, it was just me. Then I had my grandmother, my little sister, and my mom helping. So my little sister would tape the boxes, and I had like little recipes that I would put with each one. So my little sister would staple those pages. My grandmother, she was the one that decorated every jar. It had like a hand string that said, thank you.
Of course,
and
gratefulness.
yeah, and she did it with such a big smile. And my mom, she helped me with the hardest job, which was cleaning the sea moss, which sea moss comes out of the ocean full of salt, very fishy. Nobody wants to put something fishy in their coffee, So
Right.
you really have to clean it thoroughly to get it to like a neutral state where you don't taste it. And that's a lot of work. And I remember I put myself in the hospital for 4 days because I went 3 days without sleep because of the amount of orders we had. And it was just us three. And, grandma has to go to bed. She's elder. Little sister has to get up for school. And I'm there 4 in the morning still blending. 5 in the morning still blending.
Because at the end of the day, you had to make these orders. You had to make it happen.
I had to make it happen. The thing is, once you're in a marketplace, people expect their stuff in a certain amount of days. If they don't get it, they want a refund. Marketplace will shut your store down because now it seems like you're scamming people.
And in the back of your head, you still got to make sure mom.
The bills are paid now.
Yeah.
So when I got out of the hospital, I remember posting something on my Instagram because, they knew I was in the hospital, and I had all my friends blowing me up like, "Hey, I'd help you, man." Friends from
I think your
college.
phone's when it goes off is affecting the camera.
Is it?
Yeah, but it's cool.
I'm gonna hold it here. But yeah, when I got out, I had so many messages from friends and that was just saying, "Hey, I want to help." There were a lot of people at home doing nothing because of COVID. So I had my first employee. His name was Christian Gonzalez. He was 19 or 20 at the time,
right?
And he came and he was like my first hired help. And then I had Alexandra, then Chef Rob, and Champ and Adrian, and they were the first 5 that worked with me in my mom's house every day. So even though I have a team of 45 now, everybody knows that those 5 are the OGs, and we call them that.
They came in from the bottom. They're from the bottom.
Yeah, so belly of the beast. So we go all out for the OGs. Their birthdays, anytime we celebrate our anniversary, they always get special treatment because they literally came to my home every day and worked like sometimes 16 hours.
Was that mainly because of the movement? You think that everybody started coming, were willing to support you after the hospital and all that?
Yeah.
All this is in what's the amount of time all this was happening?
This all happened, I want to say when I've got my hired help, I was probably 5 months in. Because the reason why I needed help and why things got so crazy is because there was a Seamoss company in Atlanta. They didn't make their own Seamoss. They were looking for the best person on the market to make it and put their label on it. It's called white labeling.
Yeah, understand.
And so they reached out to me and they said, "Wow, you have the best Seamoss on the marketplace. Everybody loves your gel. Could we work together?" They said in the beginning, we'll probably send you 50 orders a week, which at the time would have been like doubling my orders. This was like new into the business still. And so said, so done. They started sending me 50 orders a week. And then they took the money that they were making and they scaled their ads up. They were running ads and they started scaling it. And she told me, she said, "I'm going to be scaling up. Can you handle it?" And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to say no, Plus, I honestly didn't know what to expect. And the height of our relationship, I think she sent me 800 orders in 1 week, and it's just me. And, I fulfilled all 800 by myself. And that's what put me in the hospital, So now we had my brand and we had another brand all in the same house.
I was white labeling your product.
Right. But what was interesting about that lesson was that I probably organically had maybe at the time 150 orders a week, and they had 800, and they were selling it for twice the amount that I was selling it for. So immediately my mind just was like, I know it's not the product because, and it wasn't the design either, because at the time they didn't have labels. Our jars just had thank you tags, so it was very generic. It didn't have like a brand on it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we decorated our jars was the same way we decorated theirs. So it wasn't a difference in product. It wasn't a difference in look. It wasn't a difference in packaging.
It's the marketing.
But it was the marketing. And I literally told myself I need to become a beast at marketing because everything I had studied so far was content creation and engineering, but not marketing. And in a sense, videography is marketing, and I made content for businesses that would use it for marketing, but I had never put 2 and 2 together until that moment. And I started obsessing about marketing, watching hours and hours of videos on YouTube, taking some of my profit and enrolling in like courses from gurus who were killing it in the e-commerce space. And then I had enough information where, I was scrolling one day and I saw a guy teaching courses on running ads. And he was really, really good. Young guy out of England. And he was like a beast to me after, and I just reached out to him. I was like, "Man, I know you don't know me. I don't want to do your course. I want you to work in my business," and he was like, he gave me a calendar. He's like, "Book time with me." Book time with him. And literally, at that time, we had so many customers, like emails. We had what's called like Pixel, which kind of tracks all the sales that you've ever had. And like, if you've ever, for example, went on Google and looked up some Jordans, and then you go on Instagram and you're scrolling, and now you see a bunch of Jordan ads, that's called ad retargeting. So the way the algorithms and the AI know to target you is based on data they collected or like your purchase history on your phone, you know? And so we had all that data, but we weren't using it in any ads.
Mm.
So normally you run a business for a while to get enough data to run ads, but we were sitting on that and wasn't doing anything with it. So after our call, I got him access to my store. He was like, "Bro, you're sitting on gold." He's like, I'm so positive I can blow things up for you that I'm going to work for free for the first 3 weeks." I don't know why three is such an odd number, but he was like 3 weeks. After 2 days, he quadrupled our sales. At 48 hours, I hired him on the third day. I said, "Forget the trial. Let's get to work."
It's go time.
It's go time. And we literally went from doing like maybe 40K a month at that time in sales to 300,000 a month in sales.
What kind of net are you talking about earlier on like that?
What do you mean?
Net profit. Are you?
Well, our profit margins were extremely healthy because the cost of the product, especially because we were making it ourselves and there was no middleman.
It was everything in house.
So it's like just cost of material. It was a very healthy.
So you're at
margin.
60-70% net, you believe?
Oh yeah, easily.
So mom, everything changed.
Everything changed. Yeah, everything changed.
In a matter of months.
Everything changed in a matter of months. I couldn't believe how fast. And and this was like maybe 8 months into the business when I met my marketing director now. I was like 8 months in and we were doing really well. But we weren't doing six figures a month well yet. I knew it was possible because that's what my drop shippers were doing.
Mm-hmm.
My white label team, they were doing crazy numbers like that. But we weren't even close to that because we didn't have any campaigns yet. We had the data, very rich data, but now we had it working for us, and that changed everything.
So where are you still dealing with white labeling, or are you just now?
No, I'm not. Funny story with that. I guess they decided they wanted to cut the middleman out and do it themselves.
Oh.
But the problem is we're the Coca-Cola of Seamoss formula-wise.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Nobody has our formula, our smoothness, our process. I mean,
There's a care that you're giving the process.
Oh,
and you're a
absolutely.
scientist, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've shipped our stuff to Brazil, labs in Brazil with PhD scientists outside of the United States just to get our process like to a scientific level. So it's like, you're not just going to go in the kitchen and blend what we do.
Right.
You're not, so.
What's the reason of going that hard for your product?
Well, you want to make sure that people are getting the most nutrients they can get. You want to know that it's a very enjoyable product. Like imagine trying to get kids to eat something that's healthy. Like, how do we do that? And it's by making sure the product is very neutral in its base, you don't know it's there. It's kind of like if your mom slips it into your orange juice, but you can't taste any aftertaste, then you don't know it's there. You get 92 minerals, So I knew I wanted it to be like that because, my little sister was a picky eater. I'm a picky eater. I think my grandmother was the only one that would like drink anything bitter or whatever that was healthy because she was just OG like
that.
It's
grandma. She used to bush trees and things.
Yeah, man, easily.
Yeah. So now I want to get right in. So you're now moving the business. You're doing very well in the net side. You're growing this business. What made you say, and what did you do when you had this idea, I want to go into Shark Tank? Like, how did that whole thing come about?
Well, funny story. When I was at one of my heaviest weights, I was supposed to be on a TV show called The Biggest Loser. I was casted for that show, but then like I didn't make the season. And then they called me the following year for a new season. It was like, hey, we're gonna get you on this one.
Puzzle.
And then that didn't happen again. And then the same producers called me again 6 months later, and they're like, hey, we have another weight loss show called Extreme Weight Loss. We want you to be on that one instead. It's more personal, it's more inspiring. And I made it all the way to finals to the point where they flew me out and I started filming for the show. And long story short, that opportunity fell through as well. But
how did you get to even that point of interacting with these people? Like,
there was an open casting call in Miami, and my mom tricked me to go. They were looking for like duos, whether it was friends, family members, whatever. It was a season where they were going to be working in teams versus teams, And so she was like, "Hey, we should do it together." And I was like, "Okay, you want to do it? Let's
Mom
let's
said it.
go."
Let's go.
Yeah, so we waited on a 10-hour line for that casting. And when we got to the door, she pulled out. She's like, "Oh, you go, baby. They're gonna love your story." So she set me up. And she was right. They did love my story. At the time I was working with NASA too. And they called me back and called me back and called me back. But with these TV shows, it's like dynamics and there's lawyers and there's just like so many things involved. But the producers, they really liked me and they kept in touch with me for years after the show, even though I didn't make the show. They were following me on IG, LinkedIn, Facebook. Every time I had a new accomplishment, they would show their love, and support. Then I lost a lot of weight on my own after that, so they congratulated me on that too. It's like, see, you didn't need.
So
the
you were
show.
connecting them with them through social media.
Social
They kept on
media.
watching your.
Kept watching, and one lady in particular, her name was Holland. She was one of the producers of the show, and she saw when my Seamoss business started booming, and she was like, "Have you heard of Shark Tank? Have you thought about it?" And I was like, "Man,
Relationships again.
yeah, relationships." And I was like, "Man, I love that show." She's like, "Well, they're going to be casting around May, but I want you to send someone this. I want you to send an email to this email in March. It's 2 months early, but it's okay. I opened the door for you." And I remember emailing that email and hearing nothing back. And then May came. This was March now. May came where now casting's open for everybody. And I'm like, man, should I just
March this year? Like literally?
No, last year.
Last year, okay.
Yeah, because my episode just aired this weekend,
But you
we
filmed it last year.
September last year. So the official casting started May of last year, but like she wanted me to send an email to this email in March, 2 months before casting, and I didn't hear anything back. I didn't get anything back. So when May happened, I got frustrated and I was like, man, let me just apply like a regular schmegular person, so I don't miss
Right.
this window. And I went on the Shark Tank website and I submit my application. They have a lot of junior producers that make these calls because there's so many people applying. So, I got a phone call from a guy that was a junior and we did a phone interview. And based on the story, how we started, everything that's gone on in my life, and then we gave them the numbers, it was like a boom for them. They were like, "Oh, we're moving you to the next round," So they moved me right away to the next part of the casting process. After that, it was a very long process of like filming at home footage, sending them numbers and practicing pitches, and hopefully you'd make it again to the next round and the next round and the next round. So many times you can get cut, and everything just kept sounding really good. And I remember one day, now we're no longer in my mom's house. We're which by the
Moved
way,
on up to the east side.
yeah, well, we had a neighbor that was really complaining about all the 18-wheelers coming and dropping off pallets of
my
glass
gosh.
and packing peanuts. And it honestly, my neighborhood started to look like a warehouse district. And
Clearly.
I'm in Wellington, and no, they didn't want that.
Right.
They're used to walking their dogs and it being clean and quiet and green. And here we are with like trash piled up to the streets and, stuff like that. So
Wow.
we got a nice letter saying that we had 10 days to stop business from the county of Wellington. And then luckily we found a commercial property within like 7 days. And so now we're in a commercial property. I have my staff there. And I remember getting a call from California. This was after we submitted everything. We were already like 3 rounds in. And they were like, "Hey, we want to congrat." And I stopped them right there as soon as they said, I knew what they were about to say. And I said, "Hold on one second. You mind if I run back inside and put this on speakerphone? I want my whole team to hear this at the same time." So I went back inside.
Whatever there was, you
Yeah. And I stopped him mid-sentence. I was like, "No, this is not happening. I got to let the whole crew know at the same time. We got to hear this together." And I went back inside because it's really noisy. You got everybody packing, taping, blenders going off. And I went back inside. I muted the phone. I was like, "Everybody, turn off everything. Come here, come here, come here." Everybody came to the middle, and I put the phone down and put it on speaker. My grandmother was there that day too, helping the lady.
Powerful.
And then I said, "Hey, can you continue what you were saying?" And he was just like, "Hey, I just want to congratulate you. You made it to the final round. You're going to be on Shark Tank." And it's like, my whole staff lost their mind.
They went crazy.
They lost their mind. They couldn't believe it.
So did you You wanted it to go more for what, to promote the business, more for the investment. Like, what did you really wanted to go in the Shark Tank? If you're already scaling and doing good business.
So for me, it wasn't about the dollar amount that they could offer me because our cash flow at the time was just so good. And so, a lot of times with new businesses, they need an investor to not go under or to help scale further. Unfortunately, that wasn't our problem. We had the cash flow to do what we needed to do. For me, it was I knew for a fact as a first generation CEO and being the first one to really, because even though there were people in my family that had businesses, none of them had direct influence or like
Right.
someone I grew up
Absolutely.
with
I
to
know.
learn these
I'm
skills.
living it. I know what you're talking about.
Right. So it's like I'm a sponge, and I don't come with an ego. So I know I want to be like the most quiet person in the room. I want to be the one that knows the least in a room. And I knew by working with sharks who are worth hundreds of millions, or in Mark Cuban's case, billions of dollars, that I would learn, and I would learn a skill that no matter what, I would be successful in life. Whether it was this business or another business, I would have the skill to start something new, and it'll be successful. So for me, it was having the relationship capital that the Sharks have between all the networks, the HSNs, the Walmarts, the Targets. That's already done. And then second, being able to work directly with someone that's smart, that can bring me up as a young CEO. I would have like the knowledge of a beast at such a young age. And to this day, even when I made my deal, I told the Sharks that on the show, I want to work with the Shark that's going to work directly with me, because I had 4 offers on the table. At that point, I can be a little picky. And I'm like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And then everybody was still down. So I was like, okay, I made it a little harder, but
You came in confident too.
yeah, thank you, man. Everyone's been saying that.
Yeah, and it's not, but I think you just were sure about your product. As far as your team, everything, you could tell when there's confidence with your team. I think that was more, your business was strong, and I think your team was strong. So I think you wasn't worried about if they gave you the money or not. Because a lot of people go in there with trying to get money, like you said. I think you were looking for the mentorship and the support around that and to grow as an entrepreneur. Yes. So organically, it looked organic. It looked like you just really wanted to build relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's always been, it sounds like that's your secret. One of your secrets to success is genuine relationship that you trust, that you carry on as you go. That's what I'm watching that's consistent with you.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I would say you're right about that.
So once you got, what is the process like after you guys made the deal happen? What happens after that?
That's when the real work starts. So here's the thing with Shark Tank. They overfilm. So just because you film doesn't mean that you're going to air, And so, they may film 180 episodes, but only air 120 of them. How do they determine who to air? It's a due diligence process after the show. So the deal you see on the show, it is a real deal, but they're not going to actually give you the money and sign a contract until they do their due diligence, because people go on the show and they lie just to get a deal. Because, it's the first time they're hearing about your story and your pitch. The only people that know about it prior to those double doors opening are the producers. The Sharks are genuinely hearing it for the first time. So imagine you go invest $500,000 in a company without doing your due diligence and find out that their numbers were not accurate, or like there's some issues in the business that they see is going to make it fail. So after that, it's a lot of back and forth and emails, sharing paperwork.
Not a negotiation happened.
Yeah, well, not so much negotiation, because they'll stick to the deal for the most part that they made on the show, but they want to see like proof of sales. They want to see your accounting. They want to know if you have like your ducks lined up. Do you own your trademark? Do you you're doing food? Do you have an FDA approved facility? Can somebody just come in and shut you down because you're not doing things the right way? So they were very, very, very specific. And that whole process was like 7 months, So for us, we started to get nervous if we were even going to air, because we knew the season finale was going to be in May.
Wait, so when did you find out it was going to be aired?
3 weeks before. So imagine waiting that long,
and
right?
Going through the whole due diligence process.
Right. And, I was starting to look and I'm like, man, the season is ending next month. It was the end of April. And I'm like, yo, what are we going to do? Like, I don't think we're airing. No one's emailing us anymore. Like, after we were done with the due diligence process, like a good 6 weeks went by with like hearing nothing. And I remember reaching out to one of the team members on the show, It's like, hey, when do we get an air date? Or, and they're like, oh, we can't talk about that yet. Like everything was so hush hush, and I was like, what's going on? And I
That's
even reached
TV.
out to some producers that worked with us, and they didn't know anything either. Or, and I was like, man, I told my director, I was like, I don't think we're gonna air, but I'm like, we're gonna
It's
be
not
good.
even. It don't even sound like your personality. You doubting it.
But you know what it was? It's like it's because now we know the show's ending in the next 4 weeks,
So timing
and
was
we still haven't heard anything. And here's another thing: they told us that we would know 3 weeks before our air date.
so that time is getting closer.
Yeah, so now it's 4 weeks. So I was like, they literally have a week to tell us.
They told you though.
Yeah. So now this is the funny part. We're on our third week. Still don't have an email. So I'm like, okay, so we were definitely not on it. It's 3 weeks. They told us we would have a 3 week notice. It was exactly 3 Fridays before the season finale. Funny story. So I used to use my own personal email when I first started the business. And then as things got bigger and bigger, we moved things over to like a domain email and started doing things the right way. I forgot that when I signed up to Shark Tank, I used my personal email. So it was sitting in there for a whole week, a congratulations letter. Oh man, talk about funny, right?
No, that ain't funny. Why would you? So the whole time you waiting, it's sitting there.
It was sitting there.
What made you go in that email?
When I thought about it, because all right, so the lawyers,
your whole team should have got on you in that one.
I know, but what happened was one of the Sharks, Mark Cuban's team, we had been emailing each other back and forth, and I got to the point where I was like, hey, some of our materials take at least a month to get shipped here. We want to prepare for some exposure that big. And at that point, we just sent a blunt email just saying, hey, what are we doing? Because if we're going to be on this show, we haven't heard anything yet, and we're not going to be prepared for the influx of orders. And that's when Mark Cuban's team reached back and was like, hey, all I can say is be ready for the season finale. And I lost my mind when I read that. And because, it's so funny. I kept telling my team leading months up to it, I said, the way they filmed my episode, I feel like we have a strong enough story to be the season finale. It was just a gut feeling. But, as it got closer to the end, I was like, man, I don't know anymore. So after they said that, I went into my email and I just typed in Shark Tank because my previous email has like over 300,000 emails from junk and like PayPal transactions from the store and all this other stuff. So it's an email I completely ignore because it's cluttered. So I just went and I typed in Shark Tank and there it was.
Congratulations.
There it was,
So after you guys won, so it's been literally a week now? It haven't been a week yet.
Tomorrow makes a week, yeah.
Tomorrow's making a week. So you got your deal with Mark Cuban and Kevin Hart.
Yeah, Kevin Hart, the comedian.
Is there a lot of relationship with that?
Yeah,
or it's more you still in due diligence, you still in the process?
We're done with the due diligence part. We should be working together probably in the next few weeks. Now that everything is done and settled.
Now let's talk about it's aired on television.
Right.
What happened after that this week?
I'm still catching up to emails, messages, phone calls.
It's crazy.
Like I told my assistant, I'm like, if you don't put it on my calendar, I'm going to miss it.
Clearly, we experienced that.
Yeah. Because you know what? I tried to do that myself without getting her involved, and I'm like, why did I do this? I know I can't manage everything. Once I got her involved, look, I'm here. So,
yeah. So let's talk about even us. So we ran into each other at brunch.
Yeah,
I don't go nowhere. Yeah. I'm a lame. I go at time place, but a buddy of mine, which he's gonna be so pissed I didn't tell him you're here. Yeah. We went to brunch and we never sit at the bar. Like I'm telling you, I'm so lame.
Yeah.
And then we sit next to each other and you start talking to me about I was definitely super inspired by how organic everything happened. Yeah. And then when you're telling me about the cafe, which is right across the street, how it was mind blowing how you were breaking that down to me, man. And I don't know, you can tell a story. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I went to brunch, what was it, Sunday?
Yeah.
I think it was Sunday. And it's so funny because as we came in, the girls that I were with, one of them was cracking a joke because we're both like bearded
Yep,
and
yeah.
bald, you know. So she was like, "Did you guys plan this? It's
Yeah,
like you
but
guys
it's
having a convention
There's
here?"
a bald bearded convention
Yeah,
going
so I'm
on.
like, "You always talking smack, you know." So anyway, I sit right next to you, and like, you know, he's like, I remember just dapping you up for, you know, it was just like you said, really organic. And then through talking, it was like, man, you have this podcast, and I was like, man, I just got a DM from a company that wants us to start podcasts because you know we were just on Shark Tank, and you know that was it. After that, we took the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I was just
Yeah.
super inspired by it. And like I said, I get people all the time that come and they're telling me about who they are, what they're doing. I'm so used to like, yeah. Now, you know, and even when you're telling me about how you were inspired from what we did at Cafe Hub,
Yes.
so I never realized how big Cafe Hub was to the
Yeah.
community until when I'm out in the community and like so many people that came to me and just say, you know, you inspired me. Black excellence. I've never seen anyone ever build something in our community. It's happened to me, you know, I'm not saying every time, but it's about 3 to 4 times people just came to me and actually told me this thing. But I've had people that came out of prison. I remember, I never forget, a guy came out of prison. He was telling me like, I want to become a chef.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah? Nice.
He was like, I read your article when I was in prison. And I'm saying there like,
Wow, that's powerful.
don't put that on me. First of all, I'm not a chef. I'm an owner of the restaurant, but
Yeah.
I don't want to take the title of a chef. I respect those guys. I definitely don't do what they do. But
Yeah.
I think for me, the reason I'm saying that, I think it's just so important because you're going to inspire so many. And to hear when you're telling me about how I inspire you and becoming, you know, doing what you're doing. And it's just, I think that's that community, man. That's why it was so important for me to have this interview, to have this conversation with you so I can make sure I inspire the ones, the hustlers, the people that's starting from all type of different things in life and doing all different things. And what you did is, you know, somebody could feel like they could do it also. It's attainable. They're watching you. They're seeing what you're doing, being on Shark Tank, being a local guy from this community, starting off at a video. Like you hustled. You know, the hustle kept you going, but you saw that also growing up.
Yes.
So it was just, you know, it's part of human nature for you, you know?
Yeah.
You know, watching all that, I'm just super inspired, man, by your hustle, your grind, and you really focusing on the care and serving people.
Yeah.
Like that's ultimate. Like for me, that's the most genuine thing I could hear. Like you said, a couple things, freedom. You know, my ultimate goal is to free my family and create this culture in our family where we can move like we're free. You know, my family move like we're still locked up. You know. And they're so afraid to do certain things. They're afraid to invest. They're afraid to do certain things. But they're hustlers, but it's just, they still move like they're locked up. And I think for you, what you've done and how you put people first, it's super inspiring, man. You make me just definitely want to go and fight for more, to do more. But I'm very impressed, man. I'm very. I think I know it's just the beginning for you. And I just want to make sure that we stay connected and we find ways to inspire more,
Yes.
connect with more, develop more. I think there's a lot more people that want to be free. They just don't know they're slaves. So it's just like, you know, we'll figure out how to actually inspire them to want more. And there's, you know, I think a lot more to come, man. I don't know if, you know, I want to ask you one last question to kind of wrap some of this up.
Sure.
If you had an opportunity to hire yourself, would you hire yourself and why?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would hire myself because I take like 10 no's before I give up. You know, I'm very creative. You know, I'm consistent, and my discipline is is really big. And then my relationships with people, my leadership skills. You know, I have a great skill of being able to bring people together, keep them together. You know, I would absolutely want someone like me on my team, and I do. She's my COO, and she's a PhD. She's really good with people. People love her. They feel inspired around her, and she creates a really good culture. You know, and I've seen what she's done for my business. I can step away for 2 months and come back, and the house isn't burning down. You know?
Wow. Is there anything the viewers watching, is there anything you would tell them in their process of hustling, you know, from your testimony, or any books or any tips or tricks that you learned in your process that really elevated you to another level?
Absolutely. I would say one of the most important things is to have a really strong why. And I'm sure people hear this before, but you need to have something that you're fighting for. For me, it was my family. My family was losing their home. It was the fear of losing my grandmother from COVID, the fear of losing my friends who worked with COVID people. So that was my why. It's like I want to help these people. Have a strong why because things will get tough, things will get challenging. The people closest to you will project their fears on you, and you have to love those people enough to shut them out, do what you need to do, and come back and save them later. I had a lot of naysayers. I had people messaging me like, "You doing CMOS? I thought you were a NASA scientist," like downplaying it, And it's like, man, working a job at NASA would have probably brought me 6 figures a year. We do that in a week, So it's like,
talk.
You have to be able to like ignore the people around you that's projecting their fears. And it's not always that they're trying to be negative. Like it could be like your mom that just wants to protect you and say, "Hey, how are you gonna give up working for NASA?" Like my mom said, like, "How are you gonna give up working for NASA to go do entrepreneurship? Like that's a sure job, and that's an prestigious job." It's like, "Mom, I hear you."
You hit all the check for an island woman.
Oh yeah, 100% Caribbean mom. So it's like when you hear that, you still have to remember your why and like why you're doing it. And one thing a mentor taught me that I really stick with was don't take advice from people that's not where you want to be. And it's not necessarily even that they might not have good advice. Is that if they could have done it, they would have. So I tend to surround myself by movers and shakers and doers and people that don't quit, people that have like a relentless ambition, like Kanye West. I'm a huge Kanye fan.
Me too.
Huge Kanye fan because it's like, man, I don't know how I'd be able to perform if the whole world was on me, against me, and still be able to have that level of confidence and that vision that says, whatever, I'm going to be worth $7 billion one day, like he is now, And stories like that, people like that is like the images I surround myself with, or I watch, or I listen to music, and stuff like that. Just make sure your environment is clean. I don't watch the news. To me, it's the best way to keep your vibrations low and to project fear into your life. You're scared to even leave the house sometimes. I don't watch the news. I watch a lot of podcasts, listen to audiobooks, YouTube videos, and pretty much just music. I try to keep my mind clear.
Powerful, man. Let people know where they can get in contact with you at, man.
All right. So our business page is Seamoss Transformation on Instagram. My personal page is Alexiou 2.0. That's ALEXIOU 2.0. And those are pretty much the places I'm most active.
Get with Seamoss.
Yeah.
We need Seamoss in this world.
Seamoss, our website is seamosstransformation.com. There you can see all of our packages, everything that we have to offer.
Brother Alexiou, man.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a real one, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're out. Thank you.